New year, same levels of stupidity from people who always want to be included, but you can never make fun of them because they're the minority. And how could you make fun of an oppressed group? And if you do that, you're an ism, you're a phobic, you're an ist, and you're everything else because how dare you offend somebody? Even though they can make those same types of jokes about other people, you can never make those jokes about them. If you didn't know, much like I didn't know, Dave Chappelle has a new comedy special coming out. And I want y'all to just look at something right quick. Dave Chappelle's obsession with mocking trans people continues in new Netflix special, The Dreamer, I Love Punching Down. Dave Chappelle goes after disabled community in The Dreamer, I Love Punching Down. Dave Chappelle's new Netflix special proves he's learned nothing. And you know what's so funny about these 3 articles and the many more that's gonna come out and the various TikToks that's gonna come out?
In 2024, can Dave Chappelle go the fuck outside and touch some motherfucking grass? Like, what is your obsession with trans? I'm 100% convinced, 100% convinced that some trans girl out there is sipping on some mezcal right now, thinking about how she broke his heart into pieces. Because what? We're always in your mouth, bro. Because I think you want us in your mouth. Happy New Year. See y'all later. Dave Chappelle, get a fucking life.
So there is something genuinely depressing about watching Dave Chappelle, who is one of, if not the best comic of our lifetime, reduce himself to the guy who makes trans jokes. And when Dave Chappelle first started telling these jokes, I understood where it came from. Now, I didn't personally find it funny, and it's not because I was offended. It's just because, like, the jokes themselves are not funny. But I sort of understood where it came from because Dave Chappelle is an aging comic who built his career off of being relatable and being kind of like an everyday man and telling relatable stories about relatable people that we as average people could really relate to. But because he's rich and elite and has been for multiple decades, he has lost that sort of that everyday touch, and his life and his stories and his experiences are no longer relatable to people like us. And so because of that, he has to fall back on shock value. And he's not the only comic who does this. Ricky Gervais does it, Louis C.K. does it, Chris Rock does it, because these men specifically are aging and they're elite and they just don't have like the touch anymore. And since we live in like an attention economy, it doesn't really benefit Dave Chappelle to actually be funny, right? Because if he's just a funny guy telling funny jokes, like, sure, that's fine, but is he really going to, get the masses talking about him? Is he really going to get that attention? Or is it just going to be sort of his regular fans who have been his fans for decades who are going to come out and see him, right? Like, that's what he would get if he was actually funny. But instead, he chooses to be controversial because now he's got all the Twitter trolls going and, there are op-eds being written and, panels being held and, like all of this stuff that goes around with like, is Dave Chappelle like hurting the trans community by telling these jokes? He gets the activists like riled up, and all of that attention and all of that like hoopla, only serves to motivate entities like Netflix to give him specials, to pay him millions of dollars because they know that they can capture the culture's attention by just being really controversial, saying shitty things about, minorities. And so that's what he does. And then you have upstarts here like Handsome Squidward who are taking a note right out of the Dave Chappelle handbook of, start your career being relatable, of cultivating an audience of people who think you're one thing. And then when you decide that that's not working for you anymore, use controversy as a way to garner attention, to get the Twitter trolls going because it's, any attention is good attention. And I just think that there are so many comics these days who use controversy as a crutch because they're not actually funny.
From people who are offended and mad and upset that Dave Chappelle made fun of not only the trans community again, but apparently the disabled community, is that these people never really understand this beautiful concept in life. If something is out there in the ether, whether it be on TV, whether it be on your laptop, whether it be on a website, whether it be on social media, you can choose not to engage with it. You trying to make these think pieces hoping that the words will inspire this comedian who offended you so much, they will sit there and say, I apologize, and I will never make these types of jokes again, even though Dave Chappelle did specifically say he was going to cut it out until we reach some type of middle ground. But guess what? Much like most people, they said, fuck it, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want. And you can't sit here and expect somebody not to make fun of a group of people. He's a comedian. This same tired shtick y'all have where y'all want to pretend to be offended about this, but never offended about that, has to stop.
If you are told that something you're doing is transphobic, it is not your job to try to prove that it's not. You are going to mess up. It is guaranteed. If you are told information and you immediately reject it and go, nope, that doesn't fit my view of what transness means, you are not going to be able to show up as an ally because all you're worried about is what you think and you feel about an experience that's not yours. It's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be confusing, and it's going to mean that you are going to have to evaluate how gender is seeped into society, how it has affected and shaped your life, how cishet normativity has affected your life. And just because we're existing in front of you does not mean that you get to ask or say whatever you want, and that's supposed to be taken as a compliment. Questions can be transphobic. Compliments can be transphobic. And so that's where it comes in, where a lot of the work with being an ally actually has to do with our own individual reflections on how transphobic society has shaped the way that we think and live and treat people. We don't need allies who are trying to prove how good they are, or who are asking for a pat on the back, or who are trying to seem nice, or who are worried about what they look like. We need allies who are willing to stand up for trans people and learn how to do that the best that they can.
Dave Chappelle's a comedian. He has free reign to make fun of anybody and whatever it is y'all got going on. He can make fun of me for this birthmark I got on the side of my face. Promise you, I'm probably gonna laugh my ass off. Why? Because I'm paying money to watch a comedian be comedic. And I haven't watched it yet. I didn't know about this until I saw all these fucking articles come out where people pretended to be offended. Now I have to go get a Netflix account because I do love Dave Chappelle and I wanna watch it. And if it's funny, guess what? I'm gonna laugh. If it's not funny, guess what? Probably not gonna laugh. But I'm not gonna sit here and say, you're not allowed to punch down on anybody because how could you? You're in a prominent position of power. How could you punch down on people who are minorities? Minorities punch up, minorities punch down, minorities punch sideways at each other all the time. You can't sit here and make this weird little grandiose statement saying, oh, well, punching down is a little bit offensive. And how could you? When I have numerous examples of all different types of people punching at everybody, because it's within reason to believe that everybody's not the pagan saint who's gonna sit there and never say anything cruel whatsoever. A lot of people, including some of you watching this, have said some derogatory, mean-spirited shit about somebody else, whether it's somebody you know or somebody you don't know. And guess what? You and your buddies have probably laughed at that shit. Why? Because it's the humor that you enjoy. It's the humor you partake in. It's the humor you like doing, but for some reason, when other people do it and when it's about you, oh, we gotta start crying. We gotta start talking about how it offends us. How could you make fun of the trans community? How could you make fun of the disabled community? How could you do that? How could you do that? Only a certain type of demographic can make these jokes. Only disabled people can make these jokes. Only trans people can make these jokes. Shut the fuck up and throw this dumbass logic y'all have at the window, because it's never gonna stick. It's just bitter people who are sad that they can't enjoy life, trying to make other people sad by pretending to be offended at a guy who's sitting there doing his job.
So, first Netflix aired an openly transphobic comedy special by Dave Chappelle. And then, in the wake of all of the controversy of doing that, fired all of their diversity hires, and then greenlit 3 more comedy specials from Dave Chappelle. And aired a comedy special from Ricky Gervais, which was also openly transphobic, that they had been sitting on for quite some time because it was transphobic. But because everyone had a problem with Ricky Gervais, or with Dave Chappelle's comedy special, they aired that one as just a bigger fuck you to everybody. And now they've aired an openly misogynistic comedy special from Matt Rife. So my question is, why are you all still paying for a Netflix subscription? Because you know that their next step, the next thing they're going to do, is air a comedy special by an open white supremacist. It's going to happen. That is what they're going to do. And they've already done enough damage. Why has what they've done so far not been enough for you to cancel your subscription? Especially since pirating their stuff is the easiest thing in the world. It's as easy as streaming Netflix. There's no excuse to pay for a Netflix subscription.
when he got jumped, I'm gonna bet my left testicle and my pinky finger that a few of you were cheering that, because how dare he make fun of the trans community. I think that was even the point of the guy who jumped Dave Chappelle on stage. And I wanted him to know what he said was triggering. I wanted him to know that next time he should consider first running his material by people it could affect. I'm also a single dad and my son is 5. It's a struggle, and I wanted Dave Chappelle to know it's not a joke. Why? Because stupid people want to try to fight for everything and make themselves out to be even stupider than what it is they wanted to fight for. And to wrap this up, I do not care about how any of you feel about a comedian making jokes. He's there to make jokes about everybody and every situation he sees, whether it be about being black, driving in the neighborhood and seeing a crack baby on the side of the road, whether it be about your pronouns and your sexuality and your gender, whether it be about Smooth May running around faking hate crimes with sandwiches and peanut butter up his ass. Don't matter. Anything culturally relevant is fair game. If you don't like it, it's very simple. Turn it off. Go about your day. Go watch Amy Schumer steal jokes like the pathetic bitch she is. And all else I gotta say is subscribe to the channel. I will see you all in the next one. I am going to enjoy this new year.